Thanks for staying with us. I'm Laura Ingram, in for Bill O'Reilly. And in the Is It Legal segment tonight, two hot topics, including Attorney General Eric Holder saying he's, quote, disturbed by and will investigate reports that the NYPD was monitoring Muslims outside the city in their anti-terror efforts. But first, protests are heating up in Afghanistan following the horrific shootings of 16 Afghan civilians over the weekend. And last night, Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said the U.S. soldier accused in the shootings could face the death penalty. Joining me now from New York is attorney Jana Spilber and Fox News host and attorney Kimberly Guilfoyle, who you can catch weekdays at 5 p.m. on The Five. All right, ladies, when I heard Panetta commenting on this case, I thought it was a little unusual because we haven't had an investigation yet, I don't think, and we don't know any of the facts. So it's pretty amazing when Secretary of Defense already comes out and almost, you could say, prejudges the case. But a capital case, Kimberly, how could this go down?
Well, look, this is obviously a very serious case and very unfortunate. It's disturbing on a lot of levels, but we don't have all the facts in yet. We know a few things for certain, that this is an individual who had served several tours overseas, and including the most recent one in Afghanistan. There's also evidence in that he had suffered from TBI. The duration, extent of it is still to be determined, but traumatic brain injury, which can cause problems like this, in addition to suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, there are late-breaking instances now of evidence coming in about alcohol perhaps being involved at the time. All of these things will be factored in. Is he going to be tried and prosecuted? Absolutely. Is that going to happen in a court in Afghanistan? Absolutely not. He will be tried here, likely in the United States, and will also probably be court-martialed, and depending on whether or not they do it in federal court or in a military court.
And Jana, apparently President Karzai today said he's okay for this happening in the United States, but the process must be open to the media and totally transparent. Is that always going to be possible here, given the sensitivities of this matter? Do you think that's going to take place? We're going to have media in a U.S. military court?
Doubtful. Not in a capital court martial, but he can still get the information. What the Afghanis want to make sure is that this guy, if he has actually done something wrong, and we're still in the very beginning of the investigatory stage, if he did something wrong, that he just doesn't slip under the radar, get to go home and sip a margarita someplace for the rest of his life. Of course not. We can communicate with the Afghanis to make sure that that doesn't happen, and I'm sure it won't. And once they determine what, if anything, he can be charged with, I'm sure justice will be swift in this case.
Well, I don't know if it'll be swift, because these things tend to take a lot longer than I'm sure the Afghanis want it to take. But Kimberly, the psychological pressure, nothing excuses this horrific conduct, horrific crime, but the psychological pressure that our troops are under in multiple deployments. I always try to put myself in their position with small children myself, and leaving them for year after year after year. He's now on his 4th tour, and he's coming from this Washington State base that has already had some problems. But it seems like we've got to factor all this in when we talk about these long and very protracted military engagements abroad.
Sure, and what they're engaged in, and they're putting their lives on the line on a daily basis. They're away from their families over and over again. It really takes a tremendous psychological toll. Anybody can understand that when you think about it, and the pressure that he was under, and the fact that, yes, he was cleared for duty, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't suffering from psychological problems. Again, nothing excuses it, but you can't ignore the facts and the evidence. You have to find out what really went on here, and of course the U.S. will be responsible. This also will not be a death penalty case. There really isn't a precedent for that, to treat him in this way, especially if there's psychological factors at play.
Let's move on to the NYPD and Eric Holder controversy, Jana. Right now, Eric Holder says he's disturbed because he learned that there is some surveillance going on by NYPD. It's been going on for some time. And Cory Booker says, I guess some of it took place in Newark, New Jersey. And he said it's put a chill in the atmosphere for Muslims, and Muslims are afraid to go to restaurants and afraid to pray in mosques. Talk about it.
He should be disturbed, because what's happening here is there is absolutely no evidence of criminal activity, but the NYPD is following the Muslim community around for no apparent reason. That's a clear violation of the 4th Amendment. Who's authorizing it? It doesn't appear that Eric Holder apparently doesn't know it's even going on. So he should be absolutely disturbed, and we should do whatever it takes to put a stop to this.
Kimberly?
Well, I think we should do whatever it takes to make sure that Islamic terrorists and jihadists don't continue to try to do harm to this country. There have been 14 terror attacks in New York alone that have been preempted by the fine work of the NYPD, which is relied on internationally in terms of their investigatory efforts. They are well within the law and reason and bounds to be able to conduct these investigations. If you have evidence that leads you into New Jersey, cross the street.
But apparently
you know what
they
I keep
don't.
thinking
Apparently
of,
they
ladies?
don't.
You know what I keep thinking of? If another attack, heaven forbid, happens in New York, and the NYPD was not all over this and wasn't on top of what was happening in some of these more maybe radical areas of these mosques, they'd be criticized. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it, both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.